Hello and welcome to Virtual CONjuration 2020 again. My name is Darin Bush. I'm sometimes known as the professor around these parts. Welcome one and all to a Sunday, it's technically afternoon, at least on the East Coast, CONjuration panel. This is one of those panels that I like to say is for 9-year-olds of all ages. So strap in, we're going to have a lot of fun here. Before we get into our Disney movie anniversaries, I want to let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves to the CONjuration audience. I'm going to start with ears over here. Anna, if you'll introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Anna. I've been volunteering at CONjuration since 2016. Started doing panels a few years ago and really love to talk about Harry Potter, and Disney is my second fandom. So I jumped on the bandwagon as much as I could with all the Disney panels, repping my Wally and Evie shirt just because it's one of my favorite Pixar movies. And yeah, I'm excited to talk Disney. I've binged all these movies in the past 2 days, so I'm ready.
Oh boy, all right. So next I'm going to pick on Olivia. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm a Slytherin. I've been paneling at CONjuration since it began, and I'm absolutely obsessed with Disney. In fact, I'm going to Disney in 2 weeks, and I'm very excited because it's been like a year since I've been.
Excellent. Excellent. This is the part where I'm required by law to say that, Olivia, you don't look old enough to have been paneling at CONjuration every year, but there it is. So, and also I want to let Allison introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Allison Rieger Cook, or AR Cook is the name I write under. I am a young adult fantasy author. I've written the Scholar and the Sphinx trilogy. I'm also in the middle of writing a high fantasy series called The Scale Seekers. My most recent publication was a short story that came out in this anthology last month. It's called Women of the Woods, published by the Fable Collective, and it's fantasy horror stories. So I encourage you to check it out.
Excellent. And I'm again Darin Bush, author, sci-fi, fantasy, short stories, blah blah blah. We don't have time for that. Let's get right into this. This is the attempt at the annual Disney movie anniversaries panel. Let's go ahead and get the list laid out here clear. We're gonna have a few minutes for each of these movies because for some reason in 2020 there's a lot of Disney anniversaries. So let me just run this down real quick. Pinocchio, yes, that Pinocchio is 80 years old this year. So is the original Fantasia, and somehow my database did not tell me that Fantasia 2000 is 20 years old. So there's an extra add on there. We'll squish those two together. The Fabulous Cinderella is 70 years old. She's still looking for that glass slipper right here. And then we've got several young'uns. We've got 3 10-year anniversaries that are worth mentioning. Sorcerer's Apprentice, Alice in Wonderland, and Tangled. So just to let everybody know, first of all, I want to remind everybody that even though we're doing this virtual and you guys are in the chat, please heckle us in the chat, but also we've got a wonderful monitor who's keeping track of our assignment of house points for the House Cup competition. So if a panelist yells out, hey, 5 points to your house, the monitor will take care of making sure that actually goes to the right house and gets done. So please be just as excited in the chat as you would be if we were all sitting in the same room together, which is what we're used to. So what we're going to do is I also want to let you know that we're only going to have a few minutes for each film, but we're going to do our best to give them all some amount of treatment here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Sorcerer's Apprentice, which is 10 years old. Does anybody want to volunteer to give us a quick synopsis of that film? Okay.
I watched it last night.
I'm sorry, Anna, what?
I watched it last night, so.
Okay. Yeah, you might get to do all the synopses if you've seen them recently.
So this is my very first time watching Sorcerer's Apprentice, and I'll be honest, I don't think it was my favorite Disney movie, but pretty much quick synopsis is there's a sorcerer who has I only know them by the actor's name, so help me out. So the Jay Baruchel is the apprentice, and he is Merlin's ancestor, I believe, and they're trying to do so. I don't know. I'm not doing good at this. I didn't focus too much, but help me out here.
Well, as I remember, I believe it was Merlin had apprentices, and Nicolas Cage was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Alfred Molina was another, but Alfred Molina goes bad with power. Mm-hmm. And Nicolas Cage tries to stop him, and they both get stuck in a vase for however many hundreds of centuries, years. So. And then
eventually this apprentice has to like be trained by Nicolas Cage in order to like save the world.
from Alfred Molina, who always makes great villains.
Yes, and Alfred Molina is great at being villains. Jay Baruchel, who some of you know is Hiccup from the How to Train Your Dragon series. He does a great job of being that kind of guy who seems like he's a wimp, but actually isn't. He does that really well. It's not typecasting at all. So, Olivia, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Let's be honest. Have you seen this one? Have you seen this one recently? Okay, no, that's okay. That's okay. We're having fun being vulnerable for our audience here. I have seen Sorcerer's Apprentice maybe once or twice a long time ago. I was looking at the wall back here, couldn't find it, so somehow I missed adding that to the collection, but I've added it to the list. I remember it being like worth watching, but it didn't really light any fires. The special effects were good. I mean, it was only 10 years ago, but I thought that the story was kind of like, yeah, there's a sorcerer, there's an apprentice, there's a bad guy. Okay. Yeah. So I definitely think, and Chris, who, because he owns the convention, I have to make his comments public. He says it's underappreciated. It's a fun movie. I would agree with that. There it is. Thank you, Tech Elves. I would agree it's underappreciated. I would agree it's a fun movie. It's definitely worth a watch. It's definitely worth a rent. So did anybody want to add anything else to that one?
I really like the casting. I was going to say, like, my favorite part was Jay Baruchel. I had a hard time getting into the movie at first, but then once Jay Baruchel came on, I was like, oh, I really like him as the main character, the main protagonist. Yeah. So I really like the casting for that. These are not typically the movies I watch. I'm a big fan of old Disney movies, so this was really new and really different for me. So I kind of had a hard time getting into it, but the casting was good.
Okay. Allison, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like this was one of those movies that was shaped around the title. Because, they were trying to pull up what can we do based on some old properties? Like, well, we have Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia, but you can't really make a movie based on that exactly. So let's form a story around the concept of the Sorcerer's Apprentice. But it's a popcorn flick. I still remember, I haven't seen it since I saw it back in theaters, 10 years ago, but obviously I still remember it. It stuck with me. And yes, the casting is great. And Nick Cage, I think somebody just commented Nick Cage plays himself. Nicolas Cage, as he always does. Yeah. But that's fun. We go to see Nicolas Cage play himself most of the times.
There it is. Yeah. Again, Chris is right on the nose with this one. The thing that I think that's great about Jay Baruchel and Nicolas Cage is that Jay is cast as a perfect foil for Nicolas Cage, and I'm not just talking about the characters in the movie, but I'm also talking about their personalities and their presence on screen. Nicolas Cage is all the world is, and Jay's going, I'm hungry. It's great. The combination of the two is really wonderful. Okay, good. Any parting shots on that before we move on to the next one? All right, so now this one's going to confuse some people because I think they've done it like 19 times. Alice in Wonderland is 10 years old, and I'm talking about the 10-year-old Alice in Wonderland, which is the live-action one. I have forgotten. I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the lady that plays Alice, but I'm pretty sure Johnny Depp is in this one.
Yes.
Okay.
He's in Mad Hatter.
It's a Tim Burton film, so of course Johnny Depp's in it.
Yeah, it's a rule thing.
And Helena Bonham Carter.
Helena Bonham Carter, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, so show of hands, people have seen this one. Excellent. People have seen it yesterday or the day before. There we go. Okay. So Anna, can you break this down real quick for the people who've been living under a rock for 100 years who don't know about Alice in Wonderland?
When this was on the list, I was thinking the original, and I completely forgot there was a Tim Burton one. So I watched this one. It wasn't yesterday, but I saw it a few days ago. And this one is when Alice is the live action. She's about to get proposed to, and she falls down a rabbit hole. And pretty much all the characters from Wonderland still recognize her as the old Alice. But for her, it's a brand new adventure. And the main thing about this one is the White Queen, who is played by Anne Hathaway. From what I got, they're trying to, kind of switch roles between her, the Bad Queen, which is played by Helena Bonham Carter. So it's basically an adventure with all the main characters, like the Mad Hatter, the Rabbit. What are the two twins? I forgot their names.
Tweedledee and Tweedledum?
So same old characters, different story than the classic, but it's still really fun. And at the end, she has to battle what is it called?
Jabberwock.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
voiced by Christopher Lee. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun movie, different than the classic, but I really like all the Tim Burton movies.
Okay. So, Allison, it sounds like you've got something to say about this film.
I got really excited when this originally came out because Tim Burton's one of my favorite directors, and really this is kind of a sequel since Alice is now a teenager, and it kind of starts out with the trope of she doesn't fit in with the rest of society because she likes to show her stockings in public, and it's like very weird. But then, yeah, you're revisiting all the old characters who said, you're Alice, but not that Alice. And of course, she just thinks this whole thing is a dream because she doesn't remember her first trip to Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some interesting choices. This one is more of a linear story compared to Alice in Wonderland, which was episodic. Like you could kind of shuffle the scenes in the original Alice in Wonderland, and it wouldn't change too much about the story. But this one's very linear. She is a chosen one. In this one, she is destined to slay the Jabberwock. So there are it's a very like Lord of the Rings-ish Alice in Wonderland is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah. And I'm gonna throw out 5 points for Chris for just a mass accumulation of really good comments about all of this stuff. I deducted 5 from that calculation for neglecting to have your daughter watch these movies, Chris. Don't worry about it. But what I was gonna say is, Allison, several points on this that are worth mentioning. First of all, Alice in Wonderland is truly a bizarre book. It is a wonderful book. I strongly recommend everybody should read it. But the idea of getting Tim Burton to do a movie about Lewis Carroll and his strange storytelling actually is kind of perfect. I hadn't thought about that until you said that. It's really a beautiful match because Lewis Carroll's book is full of controversy. We don't have time to get into the details, but basically the way I see it is Lewis Carroll was writing a book that was sort of taking, like, the stories are interchangeable because each story is a lesson in logic and critical thinking. And he's challenging people to think critically and to see through the mystery of what is going on with Alice's experiences with all these wacky characters. So yeah, having Tim Burton portray that visually, that suddenly makes sense to me, much more than it ever did just now. Okay. We're having a little background noise there. Aren't we having fun today? All right. So anything?
My heater just kicked on. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Any other parting shots on Alice in Wonderland? Okay, excellent. We're just moving through these here. So the next one I want to talk about is the 80th anniversary of Pinocchio. And I'm going to see if I can pick on Olivia to tell our youngsters what this movie is about.
Okay, I can.
Okay.
I've actually seen this one. Pinocchio is about, I can't say his name, but basically he makes a wooden boy who comes to life and acts as his son, but every time he tells a lie, his nose grows. Fun fact, there's a TikTok filter that does the exact same thing.
Excellent. And if I remember correctly, part of Pinocchio's quest is to become a real boy. That's where the whole real boy joke comes from, is from this story. So real quick, who's seen the movie? Excellent, good. And then we are also, it's amazing to me that it's 80 years old. Anna, were you able to find this one in your binge?
These are all on Disney Plus, all of these pretty much.
Okay.
So I actually watched this one yesterday at like midnight, and I did not even remember. Everything was kind of new to me because I'm like, I think the first time I watched this was so long ago, but yeah, it's on Disney Plus. It was fun reliving it. There were scenes in this that I don't even remember happening. Like I thought the whale was a lot bigger part, but the whale doesn't even come out till like the end of the movie. But it's interesting. I mean, it has a good moral story about being honest and good, so he can finally be the real boy. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Definitely old. It was, I think, the oldest movie I saw that I remember. Maybe that one in the original Fantasia.
Okay. Allison, how about you? What do you remember about this film?
I went back and revisited this one not too long ago since I too just got Disney Plus. Obviously I've always adored this movie. One thing that kind of struck me is Pinocchio isn't really, I mean, he's a puppet, but he doesn't come to life until about a third of the way through the movie. I was watching like the whole, it's opening up with Geppetto and with the Cleo and Figaro, and their life together. And like the end of Act 1 is Pinocchio coming to life. So like I guess as a kid I didn't recall like your main character is actually not there for a third of the film. But all the characters are really charming. One fun trivia fact I found out is Gideon the cat was originally going to be voiced by Mel Blanc, who voiced all the Looney Tunes characters.
Oh.
And he had actually recorded a good number of lines. And then I guess, I forgot there was a falling out or he became a little difficult to work with. So Disney goes, can we just make the cat mute and not deal with this? So they did.
Oh, lost opportunity there. And
Yeah.
I also think, I forgot about that. He doesn't come to life for the first third of it. Looking back, I have not seen this movie in a while. Looking back, I'm like, I don't see how they fit everything that happens in this movie into one movie because there's the whale and the donkey ears and there's just a huge amount of story.
An hour. It's like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's a huge story in this story. So the idea that, and also a lot of people may not realize this is where we get Jiminy Cricket from, who is just absolutely a delightful version of your conscience come to life. I'm not sure exactly where they got Jiminy Cricket from, but it's just fabulous.
Well, thankfully he doesn't suffer the same fate as the cricket in the original story. If anyone has read the original story, he's smacked with a mallet as soon as Pinocchio meets him, but comes back as a ghost periodically to act as Pinocchio's conscience. So I think Disney made a good call to not do it that way. Yeah,
soften the blow, pun intended. Let me ask a question. Allison, where does that story come from? Is really what I was getting at there.
I cannot remember the original author's name. I lived in Italy. In fact, the movie I think is even still set in Italy, or a kind of fictional version of it. But yeah, it's kind of scary. As somebody pointed out, Pinocchio goes through a lot of horrific moments in the original story. This was really one of those, like a lot of old fairy tales, scare your kids into being good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of thing. And the original story, spoiler alert, original story, Pinocchio gets hanged by a tree, and that was it originally. And then the editors of the book went, this is kind of gruesome. Can you please write a little more so it doesn't end on such a horrible note? So the author did, and this is where we get kind of the happier ending of Pinocchio becoming a real boy.
Okay.
Yeah, so the original story is, if you're looking for a good horror story, you'll find the original Pinocchio.
I have to say, Disney softening the tone of a story that's old isn't always a problem. This is a great example of where we like that Disney changed the story a little bit. Okay.
Another example of who read the book and said, this would make a great children's film.
What were they thinking? Anything else from anybody else before we move on to the next film?
There's a comment that says, does anyone remember the insane Jonathan Taylor Thomas version of Pinocchio? I don't. Anyone?
I vaguely do. It was live action. Jonathan Taylor Thomas. It was a puppet. So and I believe it was Jim Henson who provided the puppetry. So it's actually a really beautiful film. In fact, Geppetto gets fleshed out a little bit more. And I forgot who he did. He was another famous actor. But yes, insane's a good word for it, but also I remember thinking it was very endearing. So yeah, go out and watch it. Go find it.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you for that comment. So let's move on to the next one. Here we go. This one I think is going to be a little bit more universally exciting. Cinderella is 70 years old this year, and she still looks fabulous. So who's seen this one? Okay, and Anna, how many days ago did you rewatch it?
Yesterday.
Yesterday? Okay. Olivia, do you want to take the synopsis on this one?
Sure. Cinderella is about a girl who lives with her evil stepmother and her two stepsisters and desires to not be in that life anymore. She wants to go to the ball, and her stepmother's like, only if you complete this really, really long list of chores it's impossible to complete. Her fairy godmother comes, helps her get ready for the ball. She goes to the ball. She meets the prince, but she has to be back before the clock strikes midnight. Her shoe falls on the stairs. The prince finds the shoe, goes through all of the people in the town to find the girl that fits the shoe. Her stepmother tries to lie and say that basically she doesn't exist. Long story short, the prince finds her, they fall in love, get married, happily ever after.
Absolutely. And I want to say, I know Allison's probably going to say this, but I'm going to jump in and say the original story is much more horrific than the movie. They cut out, pun intended, a lot of kind of gruesome-y stuff from the original story, which we're not going to get into. It's a family convention.
Okay.
Yeah, Allison, did you?
I'm already traumatized enough. Poor children. Sorry.
Yes, this is another example of a story where you were like, when you read the original story, you go, what were they thinking about making this into an animated kids movie?
The original story is like horrific.
It is. It's really terrible. I assume it was written a very long time ago when that wasn't such a terrible trauma for children to see that.
Well, again, a lot of fairy tales are written to scare children into being good, being a good person. Because if you're mean and nasty to people, bad things happen to you.
Yep. So back to the movie itself. How many iconic moments and iconic images can you get in one movie? There's so many of them. I mean, it's like I can't end the evening without saying I'm going to go turn into a pumpkin. I really can't. It's just, that's my go-to for. Okay, it's pumpkin time, and everybody knows exactly what I mean. That's my way of saying good night. I'm exhausted. I got to go. It works. What other iconic moments do we have from this movie? Anna, I'm going to pick on you next.
Iconic moments. This is an iconic moment. I'm not sure for anybody, but my favorite character here is Lucifer, the cat. I think he's so. I don't know. I just think he makes the movie like much more funnier and interesting. He's always shaking up trouble. I really just love all the animals there that are always trying to help Cinderella, like Gus Gus and Jack Jack. And then Lucifer's just trying to ruin everything. So every time that I think of Cinderella, I always go for the animals, the birds, the rats, the cat, the dog, the horse. So that's something that's very iconic to me. A lot of people think of like the castle and like fairy godmother, but I really like the animals in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Allison, what about you? Anything else stand out from this one?
Gosh, again, so many great moments. In fact, I kind of forgot. I rewatched this one too. Kind of forgot how sassy Cinderella can be sometimes. Like my first remembering of the movie, she just kind of did, just said yes and moved on. But she's kind of snarky. And I'm like, I like her. I don't remember her being this snarky. And I think Lady Tremaine is an underrated Disney villain. I mean, some people say she's one of the more terrifying ones because we all know someone like her, just someone who is very, she doesn't need superpowers. She doesn't need to be this big, scary thing. She's just very quiet and very slow. I believe she's the same voice actress as Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, I think. I could be wrong on that, so people can correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I think she's a really underrated villain.
Yeah, she's scary.
Yeah, she is. And the fact that she doesn't actually have any powers makes her all the more. I mean, Ursula can cast a spell and change things, but this woman she just has the intensity of her personality. And for most of the movie, she's victorious until like the very, very, very end. It's fun to watch her fall, but there's, as a kid, you're like, she's horrifying. As the evil stepmother. Olivia, what about you? Anything we missed that's worth mentioning for this one?
Chris said in the comments, "A dream is a wish your heart makes" is a totally underappreciated song, and I agree. Mm-hmm. Every time I hear that song, it just brings me back to like being in Magic Kingdom, and
yes.
I just love that song so much. I think it's completely underappreciated, and I feel like people forget that the song is from Cinderella. Like. Mm-hmm. I don't know, people just associate it with like Disney in general and forget that it's actually attached to that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to say that I heard, I think it was just yesterday, somewhere in the Discord for CONjuration, somebody made some kind of comment about if the glass slipper fits perfectly, how did it fall off her foot? And I was like, that's not important. That's not important. That's a good point, but no, we don't care. Okay, so Cinderella. Anything else on Cinderella before we move on? Okay, if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a long time, please go back and rewatch it. I'm going to definitely rewatch it as soon as I can because it's just fabulous, just a fabulous little story. And if you're a fan of Shrek and you haven't seen Cinderella, you are wrong. Fix that. Okay, so our second to last film here, which is technically two films, but we'll squeeze them. The 80th anniversary of Fantasia and the 20th anniversary of Fantasia 2000. And this is the part where I get to go, I got it right here. So, sorry, I have to do that. So, so I'm going to cover this one real quick, which is that Disney broke a ton of rules by, instead of releasing a movie-length movie, they released, in a movie-length period of time in the theaters, a bunch of little vignettes that were essentially the music videos of the time, where Disney picked some of his favorite music and had a full orchestra conduct music to go with the visuals that his artists had created for the music. Some of it is literally artists interpreting the music, and some of it is so esoteric and wacky, but fits the music so beautifully, that this is another one of those films where you absolutely have got to see it once. You really do, because there's so much stuff going on in this movie that is so permanently part of Disney's repertoire and culture and imagery and everything. Mickey makes a couple of appearances, you know, duh, of course it's Mickey, but also the space whales, the elephants in tutus. I think it's the last piece where all of the evil creatures have their little meeting around the volcano, and it's just so good. It is just so good. So, all right, so show of hands, people who've seen the original Fantasia. Okay, good, excellent, great. So, Olivia, anything you want to add about this one?
So I have seen it, but the last time I saw it was on VHS when I was in elementary school. So it's
Okay.
been a while.
So, do you have any like memories of how it made you feel or how you experienced it?
I always just associate it with the ride at, or not the ride, but the show at Disney that's based off of it. But I just think that it like completely encompasses the magic of Disney. And also just that like Mickey controls everything. He controls everything in the movie, but also he controls everything in the world.
Okay. So, Allison, how about you? What's your memory of this film?
Gosh, I remember seeing this when I was pretty young. Obviously, certain moments stood out for me more than others. In fact, I'd completely forgotten about the evolution of the world sequence until I went back and watched it as an adult. I appreciate it more now than as I was a kid. I think what's interesting is, Fantasia, these concert films, they were supposed to come out very regularly. The Disney's plan was every couple of years there was going to be a concert film. In fact, they were working on one called Musicana. But because Fantasia didn't do very well at the box office at the time, they canceled that project until 2000, Fantasia 2000, which I think is also another great film. And the way Disney wanted to present it originally, he actually built a special theater at Disney World that was going to be like Panorama. That's originally how he wanted this film to be presented. It was kind of in a bigger, wider panoramic screen. But obviously not every movie theater across the country was going to do that. So you could really only get the real Fantasia as it was intended in this panoramic screen at Disneyland.
I have to wonder. I wonder what would have happened if Walt had access to IMAX.
At the time, yeah.
Oh yeah, because if IMAX had existed back then, he would have jumped all over that with Fantasia.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That would still be amazing. Anna, how about you?
So I didn't finish this one during my binge. I got to my favorite part and then I went to bed, which is of course Sorcerer Mickey with the brooms and the sorcerer
brooms.
hat. That is, whenever I think of Fantasia, for some reason I think Fantasia is just that part. I know that it's more. I know that they have like the dancing hippos or elephants and like the music and the all the Nutcracker music. But that is when I think of Fantasia, I think of that scene specifically as Mickey and the brooms. And like Olivia, I think of Fantasmic in Hollywood Studios. So that's what I think of it. I didn't get a chance to finish it, and it's been a really long time since I watched it previously. So that's what I have to say about it. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, absolutely. The Sorcerer's Apprentice part in that movie is just an amazing bit of transferring written story into visual story into music. Yeah, I got that out of order, but you guys know what I mean. All of those three things coming together. Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia, the original Fantasia, is absolutely top 10 examples of how to do that, of how to put all those things together. Because there's not a single moment in that part where you have any doubt as to what's exactly going on. You know exactly what's going on. It is a beautiful visual representation of the music and of the story that it's trying to tell. The other thing that I don't remember, but I'm going to ask that maybe Anna can help us with this, is did they use the music in the Nick Cage movie at all? Did they, like, I'm just sitting there going, they must have somewhere.
So I think they did very slightly. Like I could hear like bits and pieces like in the background, but for the most part with the Sorcerer's Apprentice, the one that just came out 10 years ago, they put a lot of like pop culture music in that. I do remember that with like the coils and stuff when he's showing the girl the coils, but I think I remember there's being like some slight music like in the background, but nothing extravagant in your face.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch Nick Cage's Apprentice just to see if somewhere it goes do 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 do.
Yeah.
And I remember there being one small nod in the live action version where the broom, there is a broom that comes to life and mops the floor. So
okay, there you go.
The original cartoon in the live
There you
action.
go.
Yeah, in the live action, there's a part where he floods his lab or whatever it is before his girl's about to come over.
Excellent. Okay, good. So it is there. I will definitely rewatch that and enjoy that connection. Disney's really good about that. We could do a whole panel on how Disney movies refer to other Disney movies, and we should. Okay, so in my opinion and Anna's opinion, we saved the best for last. Tangled is 10 years old. I just want to start by saying that I found out recently, I don't know if this is true or not, but I found out recently that the original title of this movie was just going to be Rapunzel, and somebody talked them into changing it to an adjective. And that whole discussion about Disney films having adjective titles is fascinating. And you should definitely check it out. Tangled, because you kind of go, okay, what does that actually have to do with the movie? It sort of does if you think about it. Okay, so who's seen this one? I'm hoping. Yeah, there we go. Excellent. I did rewatch this one in preparation for this panel. I've got it right here. Duh. I love this movie. I'm gonna just say very briefly that this is the Rapunzel stuck in the tower with the hair that can never be cut story. So beautifully done by Disney and by their storytelling animating maniacs. It's such a fun movie. I would argue that this is a perfect film. There's not a single missed note. There's not a single misstep. It's a fabulous movie. So anyway, anybody want to go first on this one? Anna, how about you? Did you rewatch this one?
So I did not rewatch this one this week because it is on at my house all the time. It's something we have kind of as the background. My sister is a huge Tangled fan. I think that's her favorite one. And then I have a Spotify playlist with the music because it has phenomenal music. And so I didn't rewatch this one because it's always on. I didn't have to rewatch it, but definitely my favorite. I love the characters, Flynn and Rapunzel, and Pascal's my favorite. So great characters, great story, but I'm going to have to hand it off to the music for this one because the music is just so fun and it gets stuck in your head. And 10 years ago it came out and I'm still listening to it in my car. So really love that.
Mm-hmm. Olivia, what about you? What's your favorite parts of this one?
I absolutely love the lanterns. I think that they did such a good job with that scene. Like you can just feel yourself there. Like when they're in like the canoe in the middle of the water. It's just so amazing, like everything about it. And like Anna said, like I absolutely love the soundtrack. This is one of the soundtracks that the kids at work, when like most of the ones will be like, let's play Trolls. I'm like, let's play Tangled. Because, like, I can never get tired of Tangled's music. It's just so incredible.
Yeah. Allison, what about you? What do you take away from this movie?
This is such a really cute film. It's almost kind of returning to the way that Disney had done fairy tale films for a while. The music's great. Mandy Moore, we always loved her voice. She voices Rapunzel and speaks singing voice. Is Donna Murphy the villain? Is that the one who?
Yes.
She also has a fantastic voice.
Yes.
And also a great villain, I think. And one of my favorite scenes is Flynn brings her to the tavern with all of these, bad guys. And then they have this great musical number and they talk about, we all have dreams, even us big burly guys who you think we're just thugs, but it's like, no, we want to be concert pianists and interior decorators and cupcake makers. It's great.
Yeah.
Favorite characters.
I have to say that I was halfway through binge watching Chuck for the first time about a year ago, and I went, wait a minute, I know that voice from somewhere. And I never figured it out. And then I rewatched Tangled, and I went, I cannot believe I didn't figure out that that's Chuck playing Flynn Rider. Oh my God, he's perfect. His perfect casting for that. Perfect casting. The other thing is, I'm a huge fan of Donna Murphy, and I have been forever. She's such an incredible singer. You can find a bunch of her really amazing stuff on YouTube, and I have. Her as Mama Gothel, however you pronounce it.
Mother Gothel.
Gothel, thank you. Her as Mother Gothel is so amazing. I can listen to her sing Mother Knows Best over and over, and I do. It's just a great song. She's got that attitude. She's got that, like, every time she makes fun of Rapunzel for being fat, oh my God, talk about an abusive stepmother. Every time she talks about her being fat or clumsy or shoeless or whatever, I'm just like, ooh, God, that's perfectly evil. It's just beautifully done.
Well, it's not like, she keeps insulting her, but then goes, but I still love you. Even though you have all these flaws and I'm perfect, but I still love you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And her vanity and her ego and just the way she structures the lies so that they technically are kind of truths. She's just so evil. She's such a nasty, nasty person. And
she and Lady Tremaine are very similar.
Yes.
Yes.
That way.
Yes.
Neither of them actually has powers, but they just take the abuse to a whole new level which is what makes them a villain.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And Ron Perlman as one of the two twins. The other one doesn't speak at all, which I think is hysterical. Their names are the Stabbington brothers, which again is perfect. His voice is perfect for that role. But I gotta shout out. My wife will kill me if I don't mention Maximus. Maximus is her favorite horse of all fiction.
So good.
He is. I would say he steals every scene he's in.
He does. He's so
really
good. He has
does.
such an attitude. I think both of the pet characters here, Pascal and Maximus, both just have like such an attitude to them. But yeah, really good animal characters here.
Yeah.
There's that animated short, I think it's called like Tangled Happily Ever After, that's all about Maximus and Pascal when they lose the wedding rings during the wedding ceremony and have to go get them. It's actually a very cute short. So.
Oh yeah,
I need to watch
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, the fact that when Maximus meets Pascal and he does that weird kind of thing and he looks up and there's the chameleon going, it's just a great moment. Just a great little moment between two characters with no dialogue essentially. So, Olivia, what about you? Anything else you want to throw in on this one?
About Pascal, I think they had such a great success with him and like everything that came out. I think that that's what inspired them in Frozen. They were like, we need a Pascal. And I think that that's why they had Bruni, which is so funny. Because my sister was like, yeah, but he's not Pascal. Like, and I've heard like a lot of people be like, I mean, like they tried, but it just can't match up to like what Tangled did. With
Yeah. So we're about to run out of time. We do need a couple of minutes to pay the bills, but I did want to ask a couple of things about Tangled. One is, how did you feel when, and guys, it's 10 years old, so there's no spoilers anymore. I'm going to ruin the ending for you if you haven't seen it. So Chris, you need to block your ears real quick. How did you feel when Flynn suddenly had a big old sharp piece of glass in his hand and solved the problem for everyone? What was your response to that scene? Anybody?
I honestly think my very first thought was, why didn't you do this after she healed you? Couldn't you have waited like 5 more seconds to do this? I know the sacrifice wouldn't have been as great, but it's like, if you had the glass, just wait for her to save you.
So what you guys didn't know is that Allison secretly works for How It Should Have Ended, that YouTube channel that fixes every movie's ending.
Really?
You know what? I never thought of that. I never thought of just let her heal and then cut the hair.
Yeah.
Okay, you're ruined. Okay, I don't like this movie anymore, Allison. Thank you.
I was like, I hated that so much, mostly because like I get that solved the problem, but I love my hair so much that like it just freaked me out. I was like, I would never want someone to cut it, even if my hair was causing me a million problems. The idea of having short hair, I hate it so much that I was like, no, don't cut it.
We all have long hair here.
Well,
Yeah,
almost all of us.
Yeah, my jaw dropped whenever that happened. I was like, that character is defined by her hair. And it's just like so short now, but I mean, had to be done, I guess.
So what I'd like to suggest is that maybe at some point in the future at CONjuration, I can have all the long-haired ladies back. And we could do a panel on Disney hair. Because there's an hour worth of talking about just how Disney deals with hair. So guys, we are out of time. I'm really sorry about that because we have 17,000 more things to say about these movies. We could keep going for another hour easy, but we do need to get out of here and let other panels come in. So what I want to do is I want to give you guys a chance to reintroduce yourselves to our wonderful audience and let them know where they can find you on the interwebs if they'd like to disagree with you. Olivia, how can people track you down?
So I'm on TikTok at Olivia L, and I put it in my little name thing. But yeah, you can find me there. You can also find me on Facebook if you want to friend me and talk to me about stuff, because I love talking about Disney like all the time.
We've noticed. Anna, how about you? How can people track you down?
Anyone can find me right here. Anna Lucio, in anything, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, everything. I'm this right here, and I love talking about Harry Potter and Disney and anything and everything, and I love accepting new friends, so come talk to me. I'm pretty much always on the web.
Excellent. Allison?
Okay, you can find my books. Like I said, the Scholar and the Sphinx series or the Scale Seeker series are on Amazon, and I believe pretty much anywhere books are sold. And I have a Facebook and Twitter handle, AR Cook Author. This one for both.
Excellent. And I am still Darin M. Bush. My science fiction and fantasy short stories are available on the Kindle on my author's page, Darin M. Bush. I actually got a couple prepared in time for CONjuration. Yay. So please check those out if you're interested in what I might have to say, just like the rest of us. So guys, we are out of time, but thank you so much. I want to appreciate everybody who made all the great comments in the chat. Please enjoy the rest of the CONjuration weekend. And we'll see you in the funny papers, as some people say. Have a good one. Wave goodbye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.